Okay, Hubert, if you could just tell me your name and where you're from and what's happening here today.
Okay, all right. My name is Hubert de Leeuw. I'm 51 years old. I'm Dutchman. I was born in the Netherlands. I met when I was 15 a really beautiful Belgian girl. We get married, and that's the reason why I live in Antwerp, Belgium. Uh,
Good.
but in the early days, in the 1600s, this were still the Netherlands. There were the 17 provinces, so you know the Flemish part of Belgium in the past belonged to the Netherlands too.
Wonderful. So you're from Belgium. What brings you here today?
Oh, it's history. History has brought me here 20 years ago in 1992. Being in Seattle, I heard about Fort Nassau and the natives and the trade, and I said, hey, what's this? I never learned that at school. Never knew where Albany was. Only heard about New Amsterdam, Peter Stuyvesant, of course. So, I'm an explorer, and I did something with my heart.
Good.
And I followed up, and ever since '92, I'm traveling up and down, doing all kinds of things, and are involved in history, and especially the early history with first Dutch traders and the Native Americans.
Wonderful. And if you could kind of repeat a little, when I ask you the question, kind of say it back to me, but you're here today because it's the 400th anniversary of...
Oh, there is, yeah, okay, but it's well, yeah, okay. So, and of course, with the two-row wampum belt campaign in 2013, which the Onondaga or the Haudenosaunee see as their moment in the agreement with the Dutch traders, is an important momentum. It's a unique initiative, and very valuable, not just based on the past, but also for the future.
Wonderful.
And the focus for more or less the Dutch side is based on 400 years of New Netherlands, which is 2014, as the traders got their exclusive license and formed a New Netherland company, and actually New Netherland came to be as a trade region. So that all goes really nice together. Wonderful. And this deserves to be respected, because this is the treaty, the honoring the treaty. That's the essence of where it all started with. Without that, there was no New Netherlands, there was no Dutch in.
Describe the treaty to me a little bit. Just say the treaty that we're talking about involves. What is the treaty?
Okay, now the treaty. There are different perceptions about what is a treaty. It can be in many forms. Most historians from the Dutch side say the treaty was a trade agreement. But it was also a relationship between two nations, new. And the Dutch were different than the French and the English. And that's why it was also perceived as, as an agreement based on equality. And it was also presumed to be from the native side as, as a treaty between nations. And I believe there's a lot of truth in that. And there were two sons of principal sachems, Orson and Valentine. Wassenaar describes that in 1624. Who were taking over to the Netherlands. And my study, my theory is that they were taken over to present as the government that there was indeed an arrangement, a treaty, a trade agreement, an establishment of relationship. And maybe even at that moment the belt was given.
Wonderful.
There's no evidence about it, and they went back. They came back. Orson and Valentine came back.
And Hubert, if you could just briefly explain, what do you hope to contribute by your presence here, and what do you hope to take away from this, and that you could share with others?
Okay, now what I try to contribute here first is that being respectful. Of course, history is, it's in my heart. I'm part of that whole process, I think. It goes towards the momentum of recognition, and this is the first step of it. And I think, being here first is also for the respect, but it's making connections. It's just adding that little bit by just being there and following the path I need to follow. I have no agenda, I have no expectations, I just do what I do. And some form, somehow, I think it will add value and brings parties not only together, but create something.
Now, I saw that your son is with you.
Yes.
Is this an educational thing for your son, or how is this?
He's with his father on holiday, and he sees what I'm doing, and he's very at ease and relaxed with it. He likes to canoe, so that's his side of being here.
And
His mom and daughter come in a couple of weeks, and always when we are in the United States, we travel around all the area in the Netherlands, planning to go to Block Island again. Yesterday you saw my T-shirt, Cape May from Captain May. So I just follow the roots of the old traders.
Wonderful. Did your son have any idea, other than you telling him about this, that you mentioned you didn't know anything about this in school, so you were learning. So
in the early history, yes, and in my education in the Dutch, because I'm a Dutchman, I've been educated in the Netherlands, grown up in the Netherlands. You learn about Peter Stuyvesant and New Amsterdam, but New Netherlands, and I had the highest points in history. Yeah? But I never was taught about New Netherlands. It was an unknown something. And that's also why the NNI, the New Netherlands Institute, with Charlie Geering and Jannie Venema, after 20 years of work, they brought that New Netherlands history back to life, which in essence is also, the birth of Albany, of New York State. And that's all started with that agreement with the Native Americans here and the Dutch traders, and based on that equality, because the first 10 years was a good period. There was really a good relationship, understanding, friendship, and it was a win-win for both. That's the essence of the Dutch way of doing things. They were a small country trying to find independence for their own state among the empires, France and England. They didn't have the war, they didn't have the armies, they didn't have the money to do that, but they invented this commercial concept of trade, of supply and demand. Yeah, and if you want to do business, and the Dutch today are still famous about that, they're international everywhere. Why? Because it's part of it having respect for the other side, and it's like, you have something, I have something, hey, can we make a deal? And you want to make that sustainable, so it needs to be a win-win for both, so you can come back next year.
wonderful,
So,
wonderful.